Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Google Ads Strategy Hub. Today, we're diving into a topic that sparked a ton of debate in the PPC world, and that is broad match keywords. If you have been in Google Ads for a while, you probably have a love-hate relationship with broad match, or maybe you just hate it. It used to be a surefire way to blow up your budget on irrelevant clicks, but with Google's recent push for AI and smart bidding, the message coming out of Google is really clear. Broad match is the future. Now, in a recent online discussion, I asked experts. I scoured the internet, I talked to actual experts in the industry, and I compiled a list of 20 reasons to use broad match. I have sources, and I got some really, really interesting responses and links to sources. So let's get this conversation started. That being said, the conversation did not stop there. It quickly shifted into the risks and whether these new features make that strategy in Google Ads even trustworthy. So in this video, we're going to break down the pros, the cons, and then the reality of what you're looking at when you are using broad match in your campaigns today. We're going to look at the 20 reasons why people are using it, and then we're going to dive into the critical reasons why you should still be cautious. So let's get into it. The first reason why you should think about broad match is it really does unlock higher revenue per conversion. An Adanalysis study of over 16,000 search campaigns. Adanalysis is a tool that is used to analyze and make better decisions within Google Ads. It runs on top of your Google Ads. It is a software, not a agency, so they have access to all this data. So again, 16,000 search campaigns, and they found that while exact match is efficient, broad match, particularly when paired with a maximized conversion value bidding strategy, can actually deliver higher revenue per conversion. Now, for the source of this study was referenced in Search Engine Land, where I also write, broad match delivers higher revenue per conversion, but at a cost, was the name of the study. And again, Search Engine Land referenced Adanalysis. Adanalysis was the original study resource there. They were the ones who performed that study. So second reason, it drives higher conversions and ROAS for many accounts. Now, this data came out of PPC Hero, which is a well-known industry blog. I also self-servingly blogged for them as well back when I started my career or early on in my career, and they conducted their own analysis. They did 54 tests and found that broad match, again, paired with that smart bidding, was a winning variant in 46 occasions out of those 54 tests. So again, it was a smaller sample size, but when they looked at this, they found a median conversion uplift of about 19%. So their source, again, PPC Hero Broad Match Review, putting Google to the test. Another study there. Third, it finds gaps in your existing keyword strategy. Now, I have talked about this in previous videos, that you can use broad match for exploring new keywords and finding them. So digital marketing agencies commonly use broad match as a discovery tool, as do I. And so by analyzing the search terms that come out for broad match, you're basically using it to find new long tail and high performing queries that you might not have thought of. Sometimes we think about those as like ugly queries or queries that don't make sense, misspellings, things like that. And technically, what you can do is when you mine those, you can go in and add those as exact match keywords if you so desire. Otherwise, you can accept that the fact that that broad match is bringing in that traffic and know that it's going to be some of that, what we call ugly search terms coming in there, but you're using it for the specific intent to explore. And there have been studies that talked about this too. So Growth IQ Digital has a complete guide to Google Ads keyword match types in 2024. Savvy Revenue has also talked about this. Again, love Savvy Revenue. Great resource there with Andrew Loke, and he has broad match keywords in Google Ads, an in-depth review for the future. So he has also published thought leadership on that topic as well and speaks about this industry-wide. Fourth reason, it helps you enter new markets. So a lot of times I think about how even when I talk to my brother who lives in Chicago, he has different terminology for things. And the only example that I can come up with is we say like our city councilman, he might say alderman. That's not something in Ohio, a term that we use. I don't know if we have that position or if it's just the region has different ways of speaking, different businesses, different abilities. So what happens is when you enter new markets, depending on your business, broad match is going to help you find those terms that you might not think of from the position and the location that you're sitting in. And it helps you identify how users are actually searching for your products and services versus how you think they are from your perspective, where you're sitting in your locale being the business owner. And there is actually a source for this too, Amanda AI, and they talk about maximizing the power of broad match keywords in your Google Ads, and they do talk about some of the regional differences in their post as well. Another thing to think about is it accesses new AI-powered ad placements. So Google came out with this, and independent Google agencies and experts have talked about broad match is actually now the requirement to access new ad placements in Google's generative AI experiences like AI Overview. And what I'm talking about specifically here is when Google has announced that they will be putting ads in the AI overview, not on top of it and beside it, but actually in that experience. And broad match keywords are one way to get into an AI overview when Google shows ads. So just be aware of that. I wouldn't think that that would be a reason to use it, but it is a consideration if that is something that you're thinking about that makes sense for your business. Go Fish Digital, again, talks about this. They talk about broad matching Google Ads benefits practices. And again, they've added that AI visibility piece up here. Also, potential lower cost per click, CPC. I talked about lowering CPCs in one of my last videos. The broad reach of broad match can actually trigger ads for those less competitive long tail queries. And several independent analysis have noted that the CPC for broad match queries is often lower for competitive exact match terms. And so you're basically saying, okay, I'm going to use broad match. I know broad match as a whole, it's going to collect some of those like lower quality, less competitive matches. And I'm going to take that extra for getting that lower cost per click with that risk, essentially. So you're paying less, taking a little bit of risk, maybe entering lower competition auctions that are working. And I actually found this at a Reddit discussion, and PPC professionals were talking about which match type is best for PPC, broad or exact. And if you look through the comments in there, again, some of this is a little anecdotal, but experts were saying that long tail queries typically are significantly cheaper than exact. And again, it could be that quality trade-off there as well. Also, simplifying account management and structure. I think this really sounds like something Google would tell you is, hey, if you add broad match, you're simplifying your account management and structure. But the truth is, it is true. You're consolidating similar exact match keywords into one single broad match keyword, and it makes the management of that easier. I actually talked about this in my episode 2, where I said the old school tactic that works. And I talked about consolidating keywords for the very purpose of getting that centralized data. And again, this is something that is agreed by experts as well. It is a way to be able to create a more streamlined and manageable account structure. It reduces the time needed for optimizations. But at the end of the day, what it really is it's centralizing. And AI and us as people need to make decisions with enough data. But Savvy Revenue, Andrew Loke agrees with me here. He has, again, in that post that I referenced, broad match keywords in Google Ads, an in-depth review for the future, what I referenced earlier. He agrees with me as well. So multiple experts talking about this here. It is absolutely valid for that simple account structure and decision-making for yourself and the AI. It also works best when it's paired with smart bidding. I think this is something that is really, really important. This is a universal consensus. Me, third-party experts, and think tanks are going to say this. Broad match can be a complete loose cannon, and it works really well with smart bidding as that safety net. Without that conversion and that smart-based bidding strategy, you are really going to get the wild, wild west there because it really will bid on anything, just like it says very, very broadly. So you're using that smart bidding strategy to guide the broad match algorithm. You're mitigating the risk of wasted spend and irrelevant clicks by having a conversion that is crystal clear. Amanda AI talks about this again in that article, maximizing the power of broad match keywords in Google Ads. This is one way to maximize it, but I've also seen this in Reddit threads. I've had it in personal conversations. We talk about it on PPC chat each week. It is a constant concept that comes up, and again, universally agreed on here. Also, we are seeing higher conversion rates than phrase match. This was an independent study that broad match keywords have significantly higher conversion rates than phrase match due to its ability to find more relevant long tail queries with higher intent. I think about myself when I'm looking at something very, very specific for my daughter's dance costume. I'm looking for a red leotard, competition style, shiny fabric. I mean, I am typing in the longest terms, practically a paragraph. In fact, sometimes I'm dictating to my phone, probably because I have these long nails. And Go Fish Digital also agrees with me here. And again, that study, broad match keywords, benefits practices in AI visibility. So it is something to really, really think about there, is that when that intent is really, really meaty and high, that broad match can get a higher conversion rate there because that person really, really wants that thing and has typed in something long tail and you've matched with it. Also, higher ROAS than phrase match. And again, I hate to continue to bash on phrase match. We will get into some of this later on in the video, but that same GoFish study that found broad match keywords had a 25% higher return on ad spend ROAS compared to the phrase match keywords. Guess what? They found that in broad match had a higher ROAS. So we really do have the data here. It is available, and I want you to think about it when you look into your match types. Also, it is excellent and absolutely amazing for high volume campaigns. So with consistent high volume conversions, broad match allows you to really, really capitalize on scale and capture a massive amount of relevant traffic that you would have otherwise missed. This came from PPC Hero Broad Match Review, putting Google to the test. Now, I will say that when it comes to these larger campaigns with lots of data, let's just say it right here. A lot of times that is a large business or a large enterprise client that's spending a lot, has high search volume, is in a competitive market. So all things are aligned for Google's tools to work, but it is worth noting here. It also adapts to user search behavior and language. So Broad Match uses Google's machine learning to adapt to how people talk and search, including slang, colloquialisms, misphrasing, and the exact and phrase match might miss this. I often think with AI how we are conditioned to search in a different way, and that search has evolved. So I think about, again, to reference myself, I was very quick, short because I wasn't really good at my phone. I've had a smartphone for 20 years now. I now dictate a lot. I'm on the go. My life has changed. I search in a different way. I would probably argue that I search way more long tail at this point, and I'm feeding in more data, and those are being picked up in a broad match search. This also took place in a discussion in Reddit, which match type is best for PPC, broad or exact. People got into the way that people are conditioned to search. Also, it can be a lifeline for these low volume keywords. If you've ever worked in B2B, you just don't have the volume. You really don't have many choices. Sometimes you just have to choose broad match. Lucky number 13 there for a reason for broad match. When you have keywords with very low search volume, broad match, it's like broad or die, right? You have to capture those impressions, those clicks, and it would be impossible with the more restrictive batch types like exact or phrase. This actually came up with, again, a Reddit thread, Carmelo Koala, in a discussion about match types. He argued this is what we absolutely have to do. Also, it avoids keyword cannibalization. So when campaigns use a combination of broad and exact keywords, Google's systems are often better at understanding which keyword to prioritize for which search query, and it reduces that internal competition. Oftentimes, if you have mixed match types, which is the way to build campaigns right now, it's really, really hard for us as humans to realize, is the broad going to pick it up as the phrase, as the exact? Even reading buckets and buckets of Google Help Docs, it's really, really hard to predict which keyword will pick up on that search query. And so with broad, chances are it's going to be picked up there. Although Google's documentation says an exact search query and an exact will match, it's something that reduces some of that internal competition. And this was a case study on Hawk SEM's blog, and they talked about how they reduced competition among keywords by optimizing their keyword strategy as a whole and including more broad match keywords. Also, it's ideal for brand awareness. Broad match is widely recommended for top of funnel campaigns where the goal is to get your brand in front of a wide, relevant audience. Again, it is treating Google Ads as sort of that billboard there. And what you're doing is you're using it for that scale, for the fact that it will bring in a lot of stuff, even if it's not perfectly ideal. You're, again, top of funnel, not right there when they're ready to make the purchase. You're trying to get that awareness, and you're using search to get the awareness. Something to think about. And Amanda AI, again, talks about this in the power of broad match keywords in Google Ads. They're saying, yes, there's power in this. I know a lot of us talk poorly about it, but here is a reason to use it. Also, it discovers unexpectedly high converting queries. Again, I call these sometimes ugly, but it's really the things that us as humans haven't thought about. So if you're looking through your search terms report, broad match can reveal these long tail searches that you really never would have thought of. And I think in today's day and age, we have to think people can be weird with how they search. Search is changing. Sometimes you just never think about how to target. A long time ago, probably 20 years ago, I was working on a campaign and it was for radiologists. It was a B2B. So it was a company that sold a radiologist that's remote. And so we typed in like remote radiologist. But I learned that people are searching Nighthawk radiology, which is an industry term. The client never knew about that. But when I said, what's a Nighthawk radiologist? They're like, oh, yeah, I never would have thought about that. And again, that's a real technical term and a way to avoid getting some of those remote job searches and things. Somebody searching Nighthawk radiology is going to be different than someone searching remote radiology job, something like that. So a great reason there. Savvy Revenue, Andrew Loke agrees with this one. Broad match keywords in Google Ads, an in-depth review for the future. It's also more effective in non-English language. So some PPC experts note that broad match is more impactful in non-English language because it can better handle those search variations and behaviors that differ from English. Again, I think about, even if you think about linguistics, the good luck break a leg. When you start talking different languages, the way that people search is fundamentally different. And Savvy Revenue talks about this as well in their talk about the future. Also, it allows responsive search ads, RSAs, to perform better. By providing more search query data, broad match allows these responsive search ads, which have 48,000 combinations, to serve better. It's a great tool because the fact of the matter is these ads have over 48,000 combinations. And so if you're giving it broad in and then you have a broad ad, that broad ad could serve much, much better with much variety. Savvy Revenue agrees with this as well. Also, it helps prioritize ad group performance. A consolidated structure really, again, allows for that decision-making to see which core search themes are performing best rather than getting bogged down in the performance of countless individual keywords. And this actually came from an independent blog post from Growth IQ Digital and another couple other marketing agency blogs here as well. So really, the last one here is broad match moves us to focus on intent-based bidding versus just keywords. And that is where Google is headed. It's a broader industry trend. It's away from manually managing every keyword and focusing on the user intent and letting the bidding algorithm find the most valuable users, regardless of the exact words that they type. Because the fact of the matter is, before that person types in that search that you're seeing, that user has probably searched multiple other times. And again, this consensus comes from multiple sources, including Search Engine Land, PPC Hero, and they talk about the old way of using match types being in flux and changing. So it is really crucial here. And I wanted to make an effort in this video today to talk about the studies, the Google Ads platform, what they're saying, and how the algorithm is constantly evolving. So here's a breakdown of some of the sources that I use because I really want to stress the importance of finding PPC data from good sources. So again, talking to my industry friends. But PPC Hero, broad match in review, putting Google to the test, that was probably the oldest study that I used. That was in 2021. And so that is a little less reliable here, which is why I didn't source it as often. Because frequency is really important when you are looking at Google Ads and making a decision, especially with match types today in 2025, almost 2026. And then Go Fish Digital. This is a very large agency that was recently acquired. So it was something that I felt comfortable with. And their data was from September of 2025, which makes it very, very current. And that is important when you're thinking about Google Ads and what data is valuable and not. Analysis, again, it's a tool, 16,000 accounts. I know Brad personally, he rates for search engine land. I know the history. And so again, another study I felt very comfortable referencing in here. And I think that is really, really important here as you pull in reasons behind why you're doing what you're doing in Google Ads specifically. You want to make sure that you're looking at very, very valuable recent information. And then also, I am not going to discount Reddit, which I'm going to say is more anecdotal. It's a lot more conversational. Savvy Revenue, again, I've mentioned that I know Andrew Loke, Trustworthy, Growth IQ Digital, huge agency. And so these insights that I pulled into this are from sources and friends and industry colleagues and community discussions to wrap it into something that you, the business owner, can use. I think that that is very important as we take in all the information to make the best decisions in Google Ads today. It is important to note that the advice from Reddit is based on collective experience of practitioners and may not always be backed up by formal case studies. So that is really something to think about. The PPC Hero study, again, a few years older, still relevant. And it was an independent test about broad match, and we have to really give that merit as well. But here's the thing. The 20 reasons I provided about the potential benefits of broad match do not tell the whole entire story. The trustworthiness of broad match isn't in these benefits alone, but in understanding its risks as well. The smart way to use broad match isn't just to adopt it, but to do it with caution and a clear strategy. Being the Google Ads strategy ads podcasts, we do everything with a strategy, not just because. So here are the counter arguments and reasons to be really cautious when using broad match. And again, I'm going to base these on independent sources as well as conversations. So really the high risk of irrelevant wasted spend. The problem, broad match by its very nature is designed for maximum reach. I talked about this as one of the benefits, but it can lead to new opportunities. Yes, that's great, but it also means your ad can show for irrelevant searches. The machine learning is good, but it is absolutely not perfect. A common example is a user searching for plumbing supplies broad match would potentially see an ad for plumber. A recent Reddit discussion that I saw talked about this exact thing happening. You have a lot of people in there that are either plumbers running their own campaigns, or you have people that are agencies. They're fairly new to Google Ads, but they're running ads for contractors and service providers. And there is a lot of discussion on there about basically a word eating up too much of the budget and then not actually causing any type of increase. Also, broad match requires constant monitoring and a robust negative strategy. You don't want to negative yourself out of it being broad, but the set it and forget it approach for broad is a recipe for disaster. So really to mitigate this, you have to constantly review that search terms report and then consider the fact that Google doesn't show you all the search terms, and you want to add negative keywords strategically as well. So it requires more, not less, of manual work than managing a list of exact and phrase match keywords. But the truth is, we've sold it as something that makes management easier, but then we're telling you have to add negatives, so you really need to balance that. So fact of the matter is, a weak negative keyword strategy is a critical mistake that could kill your broad match performance. Also, lower lead quality. Again, we talked about those cheaper clicks, but this applies to lead generation campaigns in particular. The problem is broad match can bring in a higher volume of conversions, but the quality of those leads might be lower. And again, particularly important for B2B or high-ticket lead generation. A cheap lead isn't as valuable if it never converts into a paying customer. And a lot of these strategies apply to e-com. With e-com, a sale is kind of a sale. I mean, you do get low margin sales, obviously, but that's reflected in the bidding algorithms if you're using maximize conversion value, because that focuses on the higher value sales. So just really, really something to think about too. And WordStream actually talks about this for lead generation, is that not all leads are created equal, and broad match can generate lower quality leads. And so they advise that advertisers must have a process to evaluate lead quality on the back end and then feed that back to Google Ads if they are going to have a broad match campaign. It also requires significant conversion data and a bid strategy. So again, broad match is not for everyone. If you have a very new account or a very low conversion volume, smart bidding and broad rely on heavy data. And without enough data, typically at least like 15 conversions a month, we're looking at 30 conversions over 30 days. The algorithm is really going to struggle to find the right users, and you will likely see poor performance. And again, I have talked about this in previous episodes, but also WordStream has an article about this stating having enough conversion data is the prerequisite for broad match and smart bidding strategy. So I'm not the only one saying it. Another thing is you risk the keyword cannibalization. I talked about earlier as a benefit that you can use broad match to reduce keyword cannibalization, but that assumes that you're taking out some of your broad and exact. In accounts where you have broad match alongside exact or phrase match, you're actually cannibalizing more. So you want to be strategic about not letting your broad match overshadow the more specific keywords, because this can lead to a less efficient campaign structure and make it more difficult to control which keyword is being triggered for a very specific high value search. So yeah, you don't want it to eat into the performance of your phrase and exact match keywords. That essentially blurs the line in between match types, making it harder to control your campaign performance. Less control and transparency. The problem with broad match is you're really letting the algorithm find the new queries, which could be a weakness. You give up a significant degree of control, and for industries with strict regulations or very specific niche markets, the lack of control can be a major issue. Search Engine Land talks about this all the time. They advise skipping broad match when the precision is mission critical. In these cases, exact and phrase provides that greater control and are smart reasons to use the broad match. You also must be willing to do the manual work of adding keywords daily. You need to have conversion, smart bidding, and your account must have enough conversion data for the algorithm to learn effectively. You must monitor the volume of conversions, but also the quality. So the 20 reasons provided earlier, they really highlight the carrot of broad match potential. But the counterpoints that I just talked about show the stick of the risks, which is the bigger part there. A truly smart reason to use broad match is when you understand both sides of implementing it. So you've come with the smart reasons, the disciplined, data-driven approach and strategy we talk about on this channel, and then you've applied it, knowing the pros and the risks. Thank you for sticking with me into this deep dive into broad match. It's a complex topic, as you've seen. This will not be the last episode on match types. There's no single right answer. And the key isn't to pick a side, black or white, but it's to understand how to use these tools effectively. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want to master more of Google Ads strategies that actually grow your business, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. I've got a lot more content planned just like this. But hey, if you're tired of watching videos and you just want to get straight to solving your specific business problems, I'm here to help. I offer personal one-on-one coaching calls where I can dive into your account, audit your campaigns, and build a custom strategy to hit your business goals. You can actually find the link to book the call in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video podcast.